Hi there, this is Roger Pascal, and this is the Real Impact Sunday Night Fireside Chat. Thank you so much for coming on board today. And we've got an exciting program tonight. So we have Karen Maxwell, we have Doug Toon, and we're going to talk about the 3 ways you're going to make money in real estate. So this is some of the first questions that I have when I'm working with clients, when we're all working with clients. So we're going to start this out. We're going to put Karen on board with us right quick. So thank you for being on tonight. Hello, Karen. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. So Doug's having some technical difficulties right now getting his camera up. So we'll, as soon as he comes on, we will we'll put him on here. So
Sounds
with that
good.
said and done, tonight we're going to be talking about the 3 ways to make money in real estate. So Karen, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was really hoping the Cowboys would pull it off, but they didn't win tonight. So that was a bummer, but still here.
Wow. Oh, well, there you go. So at least the Rangers made it this year.
That's right. That's right.
So we're happy to see them do what they've done. So
That was truly exciting.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the 3 ways to make money in real estate. And you and I both have been in this for a while. And I think all 3 of these that we've done all 3 of these. We continue to do all 3 of these. So the first way that most of the new investors that I meet, first thing they say is, I want to be a wholesaler.
Yes.
And they look at that as, I don't have to go qualify for a loan. I don't have to find any money. But in my opinion, and I know you've wholesaled a bunch of houses, I've wholesaled a few, but in my opinion, the wholesaling is, if that's all you're going to do, that's the hardest part of this business.
It's a whole nother job. You know, to me, wholesaling is just another job. Sure, you can make a big chunk of money, but then that property is gone. It's gone to someone else to make, either do a fix and flip or turn it into a rental property and be getting that monthly cash flow. Whereas if you were able to figure out a way that you could keep it for yourself, it would be much more profitable for you as an investor to hold that property. Dennis commented, gosh, it was probably 7 years. I've been in this for 9.5 years, so probably about 7 years ago, whenever Dennis said to me, he said, well, if you're wholesaling, you're not an investor. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I mean, you're making money off properties, big chunks of money. But once you've got that property under contract and you've assigned it to someone else, that property's gone. You've made that money one time only, and it's gone for someone else. So that was when we decided to stop focusing so much on wholesaling and focus more on building the rental portfolio.
Absolutely. So to me, wholesaling and being a realtor is very similar, because you just make money right there at the table.
Yep.
And you've got to go out and you've got to find the sellers. Then you have to find the buyers. And as a realtor, that might be another agent. So that's a little easier than wholesaling, because you've got the whole MLS out there when a realtor's listing a property. But when somebody's out there and they're wholesaling, it is a tough part of the business. So essentially what wholesaling is you're getting a property under contract, and then you assign those contracts or you sell those contracts to another investor. Do we want wholesalers out there? Absolutely. We want wholesalers out there. We really want to have that in place, and there's a place for that in the business. So
yes, we need wholesalers, because they're the ones that are out there getting direct to seller and getting such a steep discount, a great discount, that they can wholesale that property to an investor as long as it fits in their buy box. So the wholesaler has to get it below retail, or below wholesale. It's like, Roger, if I said to you, Roger, what's your buy box? And you said, I want to buy anything in, I don't know where your property, I'll just say North Richland Hills for 80% minus repairs. Typically it's 70%. That's kind of standard, but I know in the hot markets, it's definitely higher. I know we pay 80 and 85% in Collin County, but 80% minus ARV, 80% of the ARV minus the repairs. That means I have to go get it at less than that. So I've got to get it for that minus $5,000 or minus $10,000. And the less that you get it for, the bigger your profit potential can be. But also the better deal you can give your investor that's going to buy the property from you. So you have to, there's marketing, there are systems, there's properly analyzing deals, properly estimating rehabs, there's negotiations, all these skills that wholesalers have to have. And if they would just take that and use it and go direct to seller themselves and get those great discounts, then they can get an even better deal. But if you don't know how to get direct to seller, you don't know how to negotiate those great deals, then you need wholesalers on your team to bring you deals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's talk about the different types of properties that are different things that can be wholesaled. Pretty much anything can be wholesaled out there in the world.
Absolutely.
You can wholesale a pair of roller skates if you wanted to do that. I buy a pair of roller skates from Karen and I turn around and Doug wants them. And I just turn around and get in, stay out of it. Just put them together, and Doug pays me an amount to buy that contract. But the other night out in Plano at your Impact group meeting out there, we talked about Chris Blum, that is a wholesaler, and he had a subject to that he was wholesaling, and we went over that. I kind of went over that program he had, and he sends out 2 or 3 of those a week and they can be pretty much anywhere in Texas. Most of them are in Dallas, Fort Worth. Every once in a while he'll pop one up in San Antonio or Houston, where he has found a seller that is willing to. We got Doug on here now. So he has found a seller that is willing to have somebody take over his payments, somebody pay for the mortgage. And that can be challenging. I don't personally like doing that with the properties, because if I'm doing a subject to, I have a relationship with that seller, and I have to really trust that person, to do that. So I would do it to any of the Impact franchise owners, and I have a ton of customers I would do that to, but I'm not going to put them out there on the internet just to have it out there. So hello, Doug, how are you?
Good, doing good.
All right, we got your camera figured out. So congratulations. But we see commercial properties that are wholesaled. Wholesaling is sort of like doing options, which the king of options is Dennis Henson. But and going out there and finding a seller, and then putting that property under contract until you find another buyer. So Doug, you just recently did a wholesale deal. So kind of tell us, give me some information about how did that come about? How did that property come about for you?
Well, of course, I do what Dennis taught me to do, and I tell everybody what I do. If I get into a conversation with somebody, I'm going to ask them what they do. I use the form method. So I ask them about their family, their occupation, and then I get to the message. I ask them, what do you do for a living? Well, just as soon as I get finished asking them and they tell me what they do, they're going to turn around and do what? Ask me what I do. And so I say I'm a real estate investor. And, they may hear that, but more than likely they don't. What they heard you say was, I'm a realtor, or I'm a real estate broker. And that's okay with me. I don't care what they heard. I just want them to call me when the time they get a house or hear of a house that somebody needs to sell. And that's the way it happens with just about all of the houses that I buy, is somebody will pull me aside at church and say, I got to sell my house. And this was one of those ladies. She had a really bad experience. Her husband got sick. Uh, I think it was his. He had to have a lung transplant. It was something really, really seriously bad. And they went to Dallas and they left their house here, just left it and went to Dallas, got an apartment up there and stayed for years. Well, all this time, we're talking to her and we love this couple and we want to help them. And we said, look, we know that the house is just sitting there. Let us take care of us. Let us do something, at least get somebody in there. And they just, one of those couples that, oh no, we don't want people in there, and anyway, it was just it's always what they think. So whatever they believe, and you can't talk them out of it. But I followed up on this deal for 4 years. I actually remodeled one of their bathrooms. And when he finally died, that was what triggered it. When he finally died, she decided, well, I can't live there. I've got to go to Monroe, Louisiana with my kids. Then she said, okay, I want to sell it. Well, it took several more weeks before I could even get with her to sign paperwork. But we got it with an option contract. And I gave her an option to buy this property for 6 months for $40,000. I paid her a $100 bill option fee, and then I turned around and I started to try to find somebody to buy this house. Well, while we were talking to her, walking through the house, my uncle came by to visit. He's an investor, and he was the first one in the house. Guess who bought the house? My uncle. So we got it under. So he went to the title company and got everything squared away, and got a purchase and sales contract for $52,000. And the title company wrote up a paper dissolving the option and wrote us a check for $12,000, and that now we're trying to help him sell it, actually. So
Awesome.
Owner finance.
Yeah, it's a screaming deal. I mean, the house is all fixed up. The house is probably 160, 170, and he's selling it for, well, he's brought it down to 88,000. So 88,000 owner finance. He's gonna make 2 or 3. Well, no, it's probably more like $650 or $700 a month positive cash flow from that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Is it on an acre by chance?
What?
Is it on an acre?
No, it's just a city lot.
Okay. Well, I had somebody that was looking for a house in the Longview area, but they want an acre.
Yeah. Well, that's a stipulation. Sometimes you can handle, and sometimes you can't. But we come across them.
There you go. So wholesaling is the easiest part to get into this business, the easiest way to get in this business. So, but once again, we hear this a lot, but people that are getting into wholesaling, you need to understand, you need to have a business plan. You need to go out there, and we've got a great training program on that all three of us have done. And it is a incredible training program on wholesale. But you've got to kind of set up a CRM, a customer management relationship management situation. But you got to keep track. So you see the signs out there all the time that says house for sale, worth 150, selling for 90. Well, that's going to be a wholesaler, and we call those bait signs, and we call those people, they're the way. So you call that, and most of the time they're going to come back and say, oh, that property is not available anymore, but what are you looking for? I want to capture your information. So when I find something that falls into your criteria, I'm going to give you a call. And with that, they're collecting your information. So when I see a bait sign like that, I in an area that I want to buy in, I am very much on top of making sure that that I have that number. I will take a picture of it with my phone. I'll later call it when I get a chance, and I will get on their list because I want to be on as many wholesalers' list as I can. And a lot of times the wholesale properties that I have bought, or some of them that I've sold, there might be more than one person involved in that transaction, more than one investor or two investors. I may find a property that another wholesaler has found, and then he found and he sold it to another wholesaler, and then that wholesaler is selling it to me. And it's all about what the property is worth, what it's going to cash flow, or whatever it may be. But it is a great way to do this business, and we have we have a great program for that. Now, Maureen is asking on our chat, can you say more about what an option contract is? So we use a lot of option contracts. So essentially, the definition of an option contract is, Maureen, you have a property that's for sale, and then we go in and I put a contract on that property to sell at a later time, or to buy it from you at a later time. That option may be out there for 60 days or 60 months, whatever that may be, however the two parties agree on that. I had a guy that I knew. I didn't work with him, but I knew him. I talked to him. He was at a meeting one time. We're talking about a deal he did. And he did a deal in Arizona where he bought, I think it was about 400 acres under an option contract. And then he had in his contract, and this guy could still run his cattle on it. He could still produce his goods on it. He was paying the taxes on it. He had full use to it, all that kind of stuff. But he would sell it off like 25 acres at a time to a developer. And you see that a lot. So you see that where you're getting a new shopping center type area in that has maybe a Lowe's or a Home Depot and a AMC theaters and a Ross and all that. Normally that is going to be a developer, not a developer. That is going to be an investor that puts all that property under contract with Farmer Joe, or John Wayne or whoever. And then that person will go out and wine and dine the developers that are going to build that are, he'll do the traffic studies in there, or he or she will do the traffic studies in there. They'll do everything they have, and then they'll go to the developers that are putting in new locations for these large box stores. And some of them are small. Some might be, the Jack in the Box and the Freddy's custard or whatever. But I've got a very good friend of mine in Fort Worth. That's what he does nationwide. He'll go out. He'll find a great intersection that's just raw land, usually outside of town somewhere, and then he has connections with all these different retailers or the people that associate for the retailers, and then he will then get everything under contract, and then he'll close with you, Maureen. He'll close with the seller at the same time he closes with all the different developers, or with a developer, or whatever that may be. And he's really out no cash out of his pocket. He is out of the effort and the time that he puts into that. And that's Steve. So Steve does that very well. We all see what happens when a Buc-ee's comes in. Town develops around the Buc-ee's. You get, the one out there on 20 in Terrell has 3 or 4 hotels and apartment complexes and all the different retail stores and everything on that basis. So that's kind of what an option is, Maureen. Karen or Doug, did y'all want to throw anything out there on an option? I know both of y'all have done training on those.
For me, I just feel like I know Doug does them all the time. And what's wonderful about an option to me is it doesn't put me it doesn't make me feel pressured. Like if I go put a property under contract and then I need to assign it to someone within my 30 days, or let's say I have a property under contract and I'm promising to close within 30 days. I've got 30 days to find a buyer that can close in that 30 days. Not 30 days to find a buyer, because they've got to be able to close on that property within that 30 days. So with an option, if Doug has a property that he wants to sell me and I put it under option, then I can say, like you said, it's whatever we agree on. If I do a 3-month option, a 6-month option, a 1-year option, whatever works for both of you, then I've got that time to either perform or not, like exercise my option or not. I'm not committed in any way to have to buy that property within that time. Whereas if I had it under a purchase and sale agreement, I would have to perform within that 30 days or whatever whatever you agree on. Doug, I know that you love options. That's primarily what you guys do, right?
Well, we just primarily we invest in real estate, but when I find something that I don't want to hold,
right,
on, but an option is like a stock option. So if you go and you've got your broker, your stock broker, and you say, look, I want to buy an option to buy this stock at this set price, for a set amount of time, then and you pay a fee for that. And so they hold that price for you until that option period is up. It's the same thing with a house. What I love about it also is that if somebody decides, say that I get a property under contract and for $40,000, and then I go away, and then that night the brother-in-law comes over and says, hey, how's it going? They say, that's going great. I just sold my house. You what? You sold your house? Yes, I sold my house. Well, how much did you sell it for? $40,000. Why are they giving you 50? Well, if they go and close for $50,000, that option becomes, well, it's already a title flaw. So the title company is going to do all their work, and they're going to find the option on that property, and they're going to have to call me to find out how much it's going to cost to get rid of the option, get rid of the title flaw. And I love it. I mean, they could go and they could try to make a whole bunch more money. I'm just going to take the difference between what my option was for and the sales price.
There you go. But you do have to file at the courthouse. It doesn't,
Oh, yeah.
just because you have it on your desk doesn't put a flaw on it. It has to be filed at the courthouse.
Agreement. You file it as an agreement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So once again, wholesaling is a great way to make money in this. It is not residual income like some other ways we're going to talk about in a minute, but it is a way to get started in this business. You're going to build relationships. You're going to go out. You're going to go to every impact meeting you can go to in the areas that you're building in, and so you're going to build those relationships, because I have people that call me and go, hey, don't you invest in this area? I've got a property I think you might be interested in. So just about a month ago, I guess, Karen looked at one of her members that goes to her meeting had in an area. I don't think it really worked out, but I think it was worth looking at, right, Karen?
Are you talking about the one out at Lake Tawakoni?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was definitely worth looking at. We couldn't come to an agreement, but we did our due diligence, and that's where it kind of fell apart. But it was worth looking at, and we still have a relationship with her. And if the seller, she's an investor, so she kind of knows what she has, but she's asking too much because she's an investor. That doesn't want to admit that she's paid too much and put too much into it. But yeah, if she decides to come, she comes around later and decides to take less, we would definitely move forward with that one. We've actually come across several that are land that are kind of unique properties, and that's another place where an option is a good option because, just because you have a horse farm that has a barn and no house, because you sold the house and the frontage road doesn't mean that that property is still like, it's going to be very unique to find a person that is willing to buy the horse farm for the horse farm, for the stables and the arena and the all that stuff. So that was what we talked about with her, and we have a meeting with her tomorrow about putting it under an option because one of the I don't want it. It won't work for me. But one of the developers that I know said, Karen, it'd be 2 years before I'm ever making any money off of it. I wouldn't go take out a loan to pay her that much money and then have a payment and then have to go through rezoning and the development and the plats and the utilities and all that stuff. And so he said, see if you can get me an option. If you can get me an option for X, Y, and Z, then I'll move forward with it. So that was a great conversation and a great thought on that because, I'm not the one that's having to go out and take out the $700,000 loan. So
There you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next way that we do business is the fix and flip. So that was interesting. So we have a fix and flip. So with that, let's talk about what a fix and flip is. Karen and Doug, you have the floor.
Doug, I'll let you take this one first.
Well, a fix and flip is where you buy the property and then you put the money into it to fix it up so that you can resell it. It's also the income is not residual. It's a one-time, and it's the purchase price and then plus the remodel, how much the remodel was, and then your profit comes after that. First deal I did was a little house in the Stop 6 area of Fort Worth. And if you know anything about Fort Worth, you just went, ooh, because that's a tough area. But I bought this house for $23,000, and I put less than 55, and I sold it for 55 to an investor. And that's a fix and flip. You could fix it up, to the nines and flip it for retail, but that was not the neighborhood we were working in.
Absolutely.
Good thing that you recognize that because a lot of people don't. A lot of people will over rehab a property in an area that it's never going to get the price point that they're looking for. And then your property's going to sit on the market. And it's, the empty houses cost so much money. From, you mentioned purchasing the property and then doing the rehab. Well, what if you don't necessarily have to have the money for it? You can get, a private money lender to lend you the money for the purchase and the rehab. But guess what? You've still got to either pay them monthly or they're going to get their percentage at the end. We've done that. We've done it a couple of different ways. We paid one monthly and we paid one, he got a percentage of the profit at the end. But the longer you hold that property, the more money that you're shelling out for, oh my gosh, lawn care, utilities, what if we bought properties that didn't have electricity? We had to put a temporary power pole there and then get the electricity ready to get it inspected so we could have actual electricity in the property. I mean, there's just so many things that cost money that you have to be paying for. Those carrying costs can eat your profit up. And the longer it sits there, especially in the summertime, you have to mow the yard every 2 weeks to keep it looking good. You got to go pay to have someone come back in and re-clean it because it's been shown and it rained and everyone tracked the mud through the house, or it got windy and leaves flew in the house, or cobwebs form. It's crazy. So yeah, it's it can be fun. It's a lot of fun to take especially if you look back at your before and afters. I'm always so proud of what we took. We took this less than desirable piece of property and turned it into some of the cutest and highly sought after properties. And it's a lot of fun and exciting to look at the end results.
Absolutely. So when we're doing a fix and flip, we're going to have money because we have to buy the house and we have to have the money to do the rehab. So I don't think any of us on this call right now use our own money. Very seldom do we use our own money. There's times that we have to, but or that we feel it's better to do it or easier to do it. But for the most part, we're working with private investors. We're working with banks or lenders, private lenders or banks that are open to work with investors. Now, This isn't like you go to Chase Bank or to the big national banks. They really don't have good programs for that. And they sometimes, the people you're talking to may not know they don't have good programs for that. And they can lead you on in a couple of weeks and then find out we can't do that because they talked to their superior or whatever else. But the local community banks are wonderful for that. So one of our students was able to go to a local community bank, presented their business plan. That's what we do as trainers. We help investors build a business plan, and they took that banking package business plan to the bank and got a $250,000 line of credit. And the next deal they did, they didn't have to bring any money to the table. The bank covered everything from the purchase, because it was a great deal. The banks are looking at it as the deal. And they covered the cost of the purchase and the cost of the rehab. We use hard money lenders for that. And there's a great place for them to make that happen. And now you've, with either that type of lender, whether it's a local bank or a hard money lender, you've got somebody else looking over your shoulder to make sure you're getting into a good deal. Mm-hmm. And not allowing you to get into a bad deal. And they'll tell you, oh, you've miscalculated the repairs on this. Especially hard money lenders, they're very good at that. They're going to go in and they're going to tell that investor, you've misquoted your numbers here, or they're going to have usually it's an appraisal. Some hard money lenders do their valuations in house, but they're going to value that property to make sure that your values or their values connect with your values. And there's times that we've done deals with hard money lenders, and they say, we won't do it at this because you're paying too much money. Go back and offer the seller this amount and we will do it. And more times than not, you go back to the seller and say, hey, my lender will not lend on it at this price because they don't think it's going to cash flow. And but they will lend on it at this price. And more times than not, we wind up getting the property because the seller wants to sell the property. And it's not taking advantage of anybody. It's just making sure that happens. So, and I think, Doug, you have a great story out there. Your first fix and flip, you got some family money. You went to your family, said, hey, I've got a great deal here. You were doing some rehabs for your client back before you got into investing, and the client didn't want it. And you're like, this is a deal. I think I can make some money out of this.
Yeah. Well, I think that I've used private money for almost everything since that first deal. The first deal was hard money, and everything after that. We did a deal in Kilgore, bought a house with credit cards. Paid for the rehab and everything with credit cards, and then just rolled that over into a mortgage. Did a deal in White Oak, bought the house for $5,100, and I put another $25,000 in it. So that $30,000 that I invested was from a family member that I said, I'll give you 10%. And for the 2 years that I held that house, I paid them $6,000. I turned around and sold that house and make 69. So I would trade $6,000 for 69 any day. The deal,
Absolutely.
if the deal's right, the money's going to show up. Period. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, kind of the properties that you're looking that I look for when I'm doing a fix and flip is I want a property that's not 2 hours away. I want a property that if I can go over there, and I'm going to have my team in place. So I've met investors out there that will do properties that are 5 hours from where they live. And does it work for them? Yeah, it can work for them, but there's some more challenges in that basis. And the latest case I know about that is there's an investor in the Lindale Tyler area that bought a property about 4 hours away, and it was an incredible deal, but they had to bring their investors out of Tyler, and those investors had to pay for a hotel, or those not investors, they had to bring their construction crews out of Tyler, and that construction crew had to actually stay in a hotel for several nights rehabbing this house and making that happen. So so you just be aware of that when you're doing that. Is if it's too far away and you're 4 hours away and there's a challenge and you need to be there to approve something because they found something in there that a decision has to be made on doing that, you just want to be very aware of that, and making sure that they have that you're in that right frame of mind, and you understand that you don't, when you're rehabbing a house, when you're doing a fix and flip, unless you're doing the work yourself, if you're paying contractors, you don't need to be hanging out there all day long every day.
Right.
You need to check their work. What happens is you go in there to check their work, and they've got a crew in there. The crew stops working to watch you.
Yeah.
And now they're not working because they're watching you. So what I do is I try to get in there on off hours or when the crew's not there, and I'll go through, I'll look at my punch list, I'll see where they're at. And then that's when I can call that particular contractor that's over that, the electrician or the plumber or the sheetrock guy or whatever it may be. I can call them and say, okay, here's what I've got. What's going on? Why aren't we, why has the plumbing not been done yet? And that's where they're going to tell you, well, my guy, hasn't bailed out of jail yet, or something on that basis, which is true. That kind of happens. Or my guy's sick, or I've got 5 other jobs going, and those are, you want to be on top of that. If it's 4 hours away and you have to drive there and you find out that nobody's done any work on it for a week, that can be very distressful.
It can.
You can be distressed over that. So good deal. And once again, if you need any help on any of this, contact any of us at Impact. This is what we do, is we help people build their business plans and have things in place. So that's where you're at. So Maureen, you're asking, there we go. What's on your punch list for a typical fix and flip? Are there things that will always be on the list? They're all different, right, Doug? Karen?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have the obvious, paint. We like to, I'd like to personally use the cookie cutter method where I don't have to make decisions on finish and stuff. But for instance, in East Texas, they sometimes lack the brushed, not the brushed nickel, the brushed bronze, oil rub bronze or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The darker, the black. And I prefer the brushed nickel. So in some, I have to make sure that I'm rehabbing it according to what my buyers are going to be looking for. But otherwise, I have a fan that I like. I have a paint color that I like. I'll have a flooring color that I like, or a type of flooring that I like, so that I'm all about no carpet because it's just so much easier to keep clean and replace if I need to. It holds up better. I don't have to replace it so often. That's what I meant. But I don't want to. I'm at my daughter's. I'm babysitting grandkids this weekend, and I'm looking at all the can lights, and I'm like, I love can lights, but I was in a house here recently that had 12 in one room that was like 12 by 12. I'm like, that's way too many. But Maureen, I think a punch list is a punch list. If whenever I go through the property with my contractor and we're getting on the same page and I'm doing my scope of work, that becomes my punch list. And they need to make sure they're getting everything. We've agreed that you're going to do this part first, and then you're going to do this part, then you're going to do this part. You're going to have your foundation fixed before you're working on your plumbing, because if you do your plumbing and then your foundation, you may break something, or something may come apart, or you may cause an issue. So yeah, I think that it's just all kind of dependent on the deal, the condition of it, and if it's been vacant for many, 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 many years, as many of the properties that we buy have, maybe you have to put in a hot water heater. But if you've never turned the hot water heater on because why do you need hot water when you're doing a rehab? So then you come to find out that you need a hot water heater. It's one of those things that just has to stick with your scope of work and go through your punch list that you've agreed upon. This is what we agreed you to have done this week. Go through it. I like my blue tape inspections. I just put it on my arm and walk through the house, and anything that I see, I put a piece of blue tape on. And when they ask me about it, I'm like, well, I know you're going to get to that. I know you haven't got there yet, but this is just my reminder and your reminder that I still know that that's not done. So once you paint that piece of trim or replace that piece of trim, install that piece of trim, you'll just pull the tape off. But when I go back through, that tape should be gone if it's been taken care of.
Absolutely. So, Doug, when you do a punch list, one is, I know you do a lot of the work yourself when you're doing this. So you're going to have a punch list for yourself, right?
Oh, Doug, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, we lost your sound.
There you go.
So it really depends on, like what you're saying, the project. It depends on your exit strategy. Is this going to be a rent house? Is this going to be it says fix and fix. It doesn't say fix and flip.
Okay, flip. Yeah, I missed it. I was in a hurry.
Roger's error.
Well, sometimes I have to fix it twice. Because if I do the work, somebody else is going to have to fix it again.
This is a retail, okay? If it's sale, talking about replace it, you're probably going to have to replace it anyway, because if it's a retail sale and they're getting an FHA loan, they're going to have a what?
Inspection.
The inspector is going to come through, and if that water heater is past its fresh date,
yeah,
which the highest that they have is 12 years. Most of them are 8. And I can't tell you how many times I walked in, looked at the water heater and said, this is a 20-year-old water heater. It's not going to pass,
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to take that in consideration. And water heaters are not that expensive. And I know that, well, what? Yeah, they're really not. Just have to know where to get them.
right.
We always paint flooring. Seems to be a big thing for us. When we're doing a retail flip, I'm going to change all of the switches and all of the plugs.
Yes.
It's everything, and the covers, everything that would make that look clean is going to be better. But if it's been painted before, or you can't get all the paint off of that. And what's a switch? A switch is, 49 cents. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
It does. It depends on the deal. It depends on the exit strategy. I've got a lot of leftover plugs and switches that I will put in a remodel that's going to be a rental, because they work. That's
Mm-hmm.
all they.
That's right.
Back is pretty much important. This is Texas. You're going to have heating and air And I've done it 100 different ways, just 100 different ways, mini split or package units. Like if the house is pier and beam and it's a small house, I may just use a package unit, and that's a unit that they use for mobile homes. It just blows in one vent and blows out the other one, and it's all outside, and then right, it's hundreds of different things run through my mind when you say punch list. I just want it to look clean.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
Plugs and switches, cover plates. I've done 100 of them. So, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I facilitate a lot of properties for investors because I am a realtor, and then I do properties myself. I found out early in this business, you've got to have a punch list. You can't depend on your contractor to remember everything. Sometimes they do things thinking that it's on the list and it's not. They want to charge you for it. Then sometimes you've got a situation where, we got another question there. So you got another situation where they just don't do something that's you've already budgeted in. And they said, well, you didn't tell me to replace the doorbell. There's wire sticking out of the wall, and we talked about it. Well, I don't remember talking about it, but if it's on that punch list, they have nowhere to go. So what I do on a punch list is I have it for each of the contractors that are in there. I don't use a general contractor. I am the general contractor. I use subcontractors. And I'll have a list for the electrician. I'll have a list for the tape and bed sheetrock paint guy. I'll have a list for the plumber, whatever it may be. And I'll have time frames on those, and we'll work those out into a time frame because, you don't want to replace the carpet before everything's done. That's the last thing you get done is the carpet or the flooring. And if you're refinishing wood floors, you don't want anybody in that house at that time because construction guys don't care. They'll just stomp right through the fresh varnish on a floor, and now you got a problem. So. But I'll do a punch list. I'll make sure that I take a picture of it with my phone. I'll text it to them. I'll have a couple of copies. I'll have a copy in my file. I have a copy that I give them. And then I tape a copy up on the inside of a cabinet door, inside of a closet, somewhere where they can see it. And their people see it. So if you're hiring an electrician and they bring their journeyman in there to do a lot of the work and they see that list, they'll go, oh, well, my boss didn't tell me that I needed to, as Doug said, replace all the plugs and the switches, but it's on this list. They'll call their boss. Do I need to replace all the plugs and switches? Oh, yeah, you got to do that. Instead of you finding out and then, well, we can't get anybody over there for a week to get that done. So that just works out in every different way that's out there. So, but yeah. And then Anna is asking, can you sell a home you bought on subject to? Absolutely. That's why we do a rep. We do that all the time. So there's a whole process for that. We're not going to go into that in detail tonight. We're going to go, you know what? This will be a segue into the next one, the buy and hold. So a lot of those are sub twos. A lot of those, but you're doing a fix and flip. You can do that, and you can market that property on a wrap, and you find a buyer for it. And you bought this property, it's on a 30-year note, and it's at 4.0% interest or whatever, 3.95% interest. And then you sell it as a wrap, and you sell it for a higher interest rate. That could be 10%. That in today's market, it may be 12 or 14%. Depends on what the market is. It's not out there taking advantage of people. It's out there. You're working within that market perimeter of doing that, and that's what we call a wrap. And we do those. We do those all the time, Anna. So we do that. Where we are, we're doing, we're rehabbing that house, and then we're either renting that house out or we found a buyer for it, and then we close on it a second time with the buyer, and we wind up being the bank, or in your case, you wind up being the bank. In between, you're using a servicing company, I hope, and an RMLO. If you're in Texas, you're definitely using that. That needs to be nationwide. So you're using an RMLO and a, there we go. Doug keeps popping off every once in a while. But yeah, we can absolutely do that. You can sell a property that is the sub 2 property. It's done all the time. Of course, you want to have full disclosure to your seller, the people that are on the mortgage. This is what we're doing with it, and this is the process that we do it with. And you may not want to give a 2-hour dissertation on it about how you're doing it, but you're going to explain to them and make sure they understand what's happening and they understand how this process works. If they have any questions, you're there to answer those questions. So our next subject to close out with is our buy and hold. So we all have rental properties. Doug, how are you coming along on your tree house?
It's done.
I
got there's somebody staying in there this weekend. There'll be another couple next weekend, but yeah.
All right.
That's so exciting.
Doug and Renee built a tree house and the Blue Healer, I think, whatever the Blue Healer's name is. So that's always there when I go there. So they built it. They have a couple of Airbnbs, and that's what you use that for, right? As an Airbnb?
Yeah.
How awesome is that? That is great. So what a buy and hold is you're buying the property. You sometimes rehab the property. Sometimes you don't have to because it's in great condition. But most of the time you're going to do something to it, and then you're going to rent it out. And in my case, I like to rent them out and then try to work with that tenant to eventually sell them that house owner financing. But that's my way of doing it. And, sometimes people just want to have a rent house. We're really looking at doing one as an Airbnb. We have not done that yet. My wife and I have not, but I know Doug's had some very good success on his Airbnbs. And Karen, do you have any Airbnbs right now?
Still the ones out at Lake Fork.
Okay.
And they do well. I mean, they're not, they're not plush hotels. They're just a motel room for fishing.
There you go.
So we pull the fishers, the anglers. We pull the anglers.
Yeah. You go there during a tournament and it's like, where'd all these people come from? They're
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Lake Fork is great for that. So what kind of properties do we buy? Now, buy and hold, of course, it can be residential or commercial, or it can be anything in between. It can be apartment complexes or whatever. But a buy and hold is what we put together. Is what we put together on a. What am I trying to say here, Karen? Help me out here. So,
when you're buying and holding, these are properties you're going to be responsible for. Whether it's going to be a property that you're going to rent out, or you're going to do an owner finance, a seller finance to someone, owner finance it out, but you're still responsible for that property. That is one that you're going to be able to, it's your property. It's your property. It's how you're going to make your money. It becomes part of your portfolio, whether it's one of your portfolio properties in your portfolio of your rentals, or it goes into your note portfolio, which is great, but you're losing some tax advantages whenever you have a note. So it's like my buy box is different than Roger's, is different than Doug's, and would be different than anybody else. But for me, it's the deal. The deal kind of determines what I'm going to do with it. But I always think that you have to have more than one exit strategy in mind. What if it doesn't sell and you have to hold it? Then what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to do what, are you going to be able to still make money off of it? Or are you going to lose money on it? I got into a discussion one time that said, well, you don't need money to buy real estate. I said, well, no, you don't need money to buy every type of real estate, but not every type of deal can you get into with no money. You're going to have closing costs. You're going to have those repair costs. You're going to have those carrying costs. So not every deal. I mean, it's like even with the subject too. If somebody comes to me and says, I can't afford my payments anymore, will you please take my property? And I say, how far behind are you? And they say, oh, I'm not behind. I have 2 mortgages and I'm stressed out because I'm making 2 payments. If I can step in and have that 30 days to get a tenant in there covering that payment, of course, I'm not going to have as much out of pocket. But I'm still going to have those closing costs. But the sooner you can get it done, the less time that property is empty, the better for you. But I get into that discussion a lot. Yes, you can buy properties with no money out of your pocket, but not every property will qualify for that.
Absolutely.
Especially ones that need a full rehab and they're, $10,000 behind on their mortgage. And
absolutely. So one thing I do when I'm doing a buy and hold is I'm very picky where those are at.
Yeah.
Okay. It may be, I don't want them in a particular city that's not real investor friendly. Okay. Those aren't very often in Texas, but there are a couple in the, in the Tarrant County area. Or it may be an area that I don't feel comfortable sending my wife over to pick up rent. That's big. Okay. Now I know people that rent out in very low blue collar areas, and they get cash every week and they go and collect that cash, and that's fine. That's what they want to do, but that's not in my business plan. So that particular one, I may go back to number one and wholesale that out because it's not in the area that I want to be in. I'll get it under contract, as Doug said, get it under option, and then I will sell that to another investor that wants to invest in that area, and that's okay. But that's not what my business plan is. So your business plan, anybody on this call, anybody listening to this, your business plan needs to be where you want to do business, not where you don't want to do business because you're just trying to get a deal.
Yep.
So.
Roger, I know Doug also. Doug has ties he lives in Longview and has ties in DFW. Roger and I are in DFW, and we both have ties in East Texas. So I get a lot of deals that come to me organically and through referrals and through my network in the East Texas market. But I don't personally still want to have a property in East Texas because I'm up here in Princeton now. But the market, the value of the properties, the cost of the properties here are so much higher than they are in East Texas. So, I'm still looking into those. But if I find one that I want to keep, I still come here once a month. It's still doable. It's still workable for me. But say I get a property in Texarkana, I'm probably not going to keep that property, but I might wholesale that property if it was a good enough deal. And then I would contact Doug and say, hey, Doug, who was the guy that was buying properties in Texarkana? And then Doug would tell me, oh, that was so-and-so. Or I would go back to my CRM or look at my notes and remember who that person was. Real nice guys. I remember them. Just can't remember their names right now. But that's the whole point of being part of our network, is that I may not have someone that can do foundation work in Texarkana, but my foundation guy I know will go to Longview for me, or we'll do it here in DFW. But again, being part of our network, I can call Doug and say, Doug, we need air conditioning at a property out in Longview, and he can tell me, let me go take a look at it. This is what I would do, and this is how much I will charge you to do it, Karen. Or he'll say, hey, call so and so, or hey, call so and so, my electrician out there, Shiloh, he's great, but he gets super busy, so he's not always available. So I may need another electrician. I had a tree fall on a property, and I was in a panic, and we were in the 1 week window to closing, and I called my son-in-law. Said, hey, can you go cut down this tree that fell and hit the house? And then I had to get somebody else out there at the last minute to go fix a hole that it poked a little hole in the side of the house. And it was a panic. I was panicked because here I was 2.5 hours away and couldn't do. And what was I going to do anyway? Even if I was in Longview, I wouldn't be able to go cut that tree up. But it was great to have that, to be part of that network and be able to have somebody to call.
Absolutely. So, good deal. So we're going to wrap this up right now. We're right at our 1 hour time frame. Did either one of y'all have any closing comments?
No, just feel free to reach out to us. We are open books, and we are always available to talk with you guys. And make sure that I think Doug has the next meeting that's coming up, right, Doug?
Yeah, second Monday, we're having the guy that's going to talk about how to protest your property.
Taxes.
So that's really important.
Yeah, it is, especially with the way taxes are. Appraised values are just crazy right now. So I'm sorry that I missed that I can't still go to your meetings because I live so far away. But yeah, so.
It's
So
going to
I've
be.
got one Thursday night on the offer process. So we're going to talk about making offers Tuesday night there in Lindale.
Oh, because yours is the first Tuesday. That's right. So yours is the next one.
Yeah. So we've
Rogers
got
is
Tuesday, and Doug's going to be Monday week.
okay. All right, good deal. It's
So
out of
thank you
order
for all
because mine
being
was
on
the first
here
Thursday.
Yeah, there you go. So say that again, Karen.
Some terms I'm unfamiliar with. CRM, RMLO. What is subject to? Maureen, what area are you located in? Do we know Maureen?
I don't know where she's at.
Maureen, I'm gonna give you my phone number. It's 903-445-6023. We are out of time. Okay, you're in Tyler. Well, you need to be in Lindale at Brisket Love on Tuesday night, this coming Tuesday, 2 nights away, at 6 p.m. and meet with Roger. CRM is your customer relationship management software. That is your database that you keep up with all of your everything. And RMLO is residential mortgage loan officer. They're the ones that are going to make sure that you are compliant. They're the ones that are going to help you with your seller finance, your owner finance notes, and your note servicer is the one that makes sure the money goes where it goes. She says she will be there on Tuesday. And what was the other one?
The other one subject to?
Subject to, you're gonna have to meet with Roger. He has a whole. He's Mr. Subject to. I think we should change your name, Roger. We should call you Mr. Subject to.
There you go. So subject to is picking up property without having to take on a new mortgage. That's essentially what it is. But it's Tuesday night at 6:30 is networking. Meeting starts at 7. We're going to be doing the offer process. If you've got any questions on anything, Maureen, it's at Brisket Love, which is on 849 off of I-20, just north of I-20, about a mile, right by Hideaway, if you know where that area is at. If not, feel free to reach out to us, put another comment in or whatever, and we can connect. But thank you for being available, and thank everybody for being on this call tonight. Karen,
Hey,
Doug,
Shannon. Yes. Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Doug. Bye, everybody. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Good night.